Hello friends, welcome back to another episode by Engineering Today, and we're back with some SpaceX updates for you. Let's begin our news with SpaceX's Starship SN15 moving towards reusability. Just 9 days after Starship SN15's May 5th high-altitude launch, SpaceX has already installed the upgraded stainless steel prototype at the second of two identical launch mounts, calculating a step towards potential reuse. In SpaceX's Starship development history, SN15 had become the first full-size prototype to survive a high-altitude launch and landing, though SN10 has also nearly achieved the same thing, but it exploded a few minutes later after landing. After the launch and landing of SN15, the steel prototype has to go through a careful process of thorough inspection and post-launch operations to make it safe, secure, and reliable enough. SpaceX teams then disarm the Explosive Flight Termination System, FTS, a form of explosive which destructs the vehicle if anything goes wrong during flight or landing. Then remaining oxygen and methane propellant were removed from the vents in SN15 and eventually depressurization of fuel and oxygen tanks to prevent fires. Predecessors of Starship, i.e. Starhopper, SN5, and SN6 had also survived flight tests. This time, SpaceX made SN15 safe enough to approach within a few hours. Earlier, it would take about a half a day to a full day to approach Starship after landing. Larger version of the Octograbber robots was also seen a few days earlier to secure Starship SN15 to a stable platform and transporter without using any crane. Elon Musk had tweeted a few days earlier that SpaceX might try to refly SN15 soon. Following his words, SpaceX has done the needful. Reflight already states that the steel prototype had landed in a flight-worthy condition. By the 11th of May, SpaceX had rolled the Starship SN15 from its touchdown place to Pad B, the second of two identical suborbital launch mounts. Mary of Boca Chica Gal had tweeted then, "Starship SN15 is waiting for a lift onto the launch stand at NASA Spaceflight." With the subsiding of stormy weather and high wind gusts in the area, SpaceX ultimately lifted SN15 and installed it onto Pad B's launch mount on the 14th of May 2021, first securing it in the pad, then detached it from the crane. The whole process was carried out within a few hours. According to a report, it's probably the smoothest pad installation of Starship till now. With the launch pad installation procedures being completed in a safe and secure manner, SpaceX has now focused more on the thorough inspection of the flight-proven vehicle to ensure that Starship SN15 is able to take another high-altitude flight test very soon. Let's move to our next news, based on SpaceX launching a new batch of Starlink satellites along with rideshare payloads. On the 15th of May 2021, SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket launched another group of Starlink satellites into orbit along with two rideshare payloads. This is the 9th Falcon 9 launch of Starlink satellites since the beginning of March. At 6:56 p.m. Eastern Time, the rocket lifted off from Kennedy Space Center's LC-39A launch pad. The rocket's first stage was launched for the first time to carry out the Demo 2 commercial mission in mid-2020. The recent launch nailed the 8th launch and landing of that rocket's first stage. Just 9 minutes after launch, the booster re-entered Earth's atmosphere and landed in the Atlantic Ocean on SpaceX's drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. Richard Engel tweeted on the 16th of May, "Liftoff of the Falcon 9 from LC-39A, bringing another batch of Starlink sats and also two rideshare sats along for the ride to orbit. SpaceX is keeping up an incredible pace this year." In comparison to the normal Starlink launches, which carry 60 internet connectivity providing satellites, this 15th of May launch did not carry the same number of Starlink satellites. Launching 52 Starlink satellites on the one hand, SpaceX also included two rideshare payloads on the rocket on the other hand. Those rideshare payloads were released from the upper stage within an hour after launch. The Starlink satellites were deployed into orbit about 1 hour and 38 minutes after launch. One of the rideshare satellites was the latest Synthetic Aperture Radar (SAR) imaging satellite for Capella Space. SpaceX had also launched 2 other SAR satellites on Transporter-1 mission in the beginning of 2021 aboard a Falcon 9 rocket. Adding this latest Starlink launch, SpaceX has nearly 1,677 Starlink satellites deployed in orbit. On calculating, this was the 4th Falcon 9 launch of Starlink satellites in the last 17 days. The other rideshare satellite was a Tivik O130. This satellite was built by Tivik Nano Satellite Systems. Till now, the specific details of this payload are not known, as both SpaceX and Tivik have not disclosed the details about the satellite. According to a document by NOAA's Commercial Remote Sensing Regulatory Affairs Office, issued nearly 2 years earlier, Tivik O130 is an optical spectrum astronomy observation satellite. It's not known whether the satellite was built for another customer or not. Kate Tice, who conducted the recent SpaceX webcast, stated that SpaceX offers multiple launch opportunities each month for small satellites to ride to space on existing low Earth orbit missions. This is the second rideshare mission of the year to carry rideshare payloads since the launch of Transporter-1 mission in January 2021. Let's move to our last news based on SpaceX to launch 8 Falcon 9 rockets in 6 weeks. This year seems to be the best productive year from SpaceX. SpaceX is now on the way to carry out 8 Falcon 9 launches in just 6 weeks. On the 23rd of April 2021, SpaceX had launched Crew 2 mission on a flight-proven Falcon 9 booster and in a flight-proven Dragon capsule. Less than a week after Crew 2 launch, SpaceX completed their 24th operational Starlink launch. Further, on the 4th of May and 9th of May, 2 more Starlink missions were carried out. The 9th of May launch also marks the historic achievement of 10 times reusability of an orbital-class Falcon 9 booster. The most recent Falcon 9 launch is another Starlink launch carried out on the 15th of May 2021. This recent launch had deployed 52 Starlink satellites and 2 rideshare payloads into the low Earth orbit. After launching more than 230 satellites, a historic Crew 2 mission, and successfully launching and recovering 5 Falcon 9 first stages within 3 weeks and 1 day, SpaceX is now more than half the way to completing 8 orbital Falcon 9 launches in 6 weeks. 3 more launches to go, then SpaceX will complete 8 launches in 6 weeks. SpaceX's next scheduled launch is the launch of the Starlink 28 mission. Starlink 28 is now scheduled to launch no earlier than the 26th of May at 2:59 p.m. Eastern Time. SpaceX has selected Falcon 9 booster B1063 for launching the Starlink 28 mission. Booster B1063 was used for the first time in late 2020. B1063 was transported to Florida a couple months earlier. Launching off the Sirius XM satellite, a 7-ton SXM-8 radio satellite is the next scheduled launch after Starlink 28. On the 1st of June at 12:25 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, this satellite is scheduled to launch. This satellite arrived at SpaceX's payload integration facilities in Florida earlier in May. Next is the launch of SpaceX's second upgraded Cargo Dragon spacecraft aboard a Falcon 9 rocket. This mission is also known as NASA's CRS-22 Space Station Resupply Mission. NASA confirmed that the mission is on track to launch by the 3rd of June at nearly 1 p.m. Eastern Time. NASA tweeted on the 17th of May, SpaceX's 22nd Commercial Resupply Services mission is targeted to launch from Launch Complex 39A on Thursday, June 3rd. The SpaceX Dragon spacecraft will deliver science investigations, supplies, and equipment to the space station. If the SpaceX's rockets, spacecraft, launch pad facilities, space station, And of course, the weather goes well hand in hand, then SpaceX can easily complete those 3 upcoming missions and mark 8 successful Falcon 9 launches. With nearly deploying 300 satellites in orbit, carrying up to 2 Dragon spacecraft in less than 6 weeks, SpaceX will mark another achievement. If SpaceX manages to launch all, then their average launch cadence will be 1 launch within every 5 days. With the completion of these 3 upcoming launches, SpaceX will complete 45% of their total planned launches in the first 5 months of the year. That's all for today. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your valuable feedback in the comment section. This will help us to improve.